Thanks for tuning in again. Once again, my name's James, and I'm here to do a book review / comparison of Project Hail Mary and The Martian. I know that Andy Weir has written obviously a lot of other books, but I think that these are the two books I've read. Not going to lie, I'm just being super biased. But I think that there are some pretty distinct differences between the two of them that are worth discussing and worth explaining to, I don't know, encourage you to read them as well. Little side note, I am wearing a American Red Cross hat. This is very intentional. There's an extreme shortage of blood products, platelets, plasma, and whole blood. So I strongly encourage you to go out and to either find some kind of a drive or to go to your local American Red Cross location and donate. I've included a link in the bottom for the American Red Cross so that you can go on there and get on that. So first, I just want to give a quick overview, spoiler-free, of each book, and then you can decide whether or not you want to go and read this. And then following that, there's going to be a brief commercial break, and we will get into my take on the two books. So first, Project Hail Mary. Project Hail Mary is a white room scenario. Guy wakes up in a white room, doesn't have, he's lost his memory, doesn't know why he's there, and gradually his memory comes back to him. The scenario that is set up is that the Earth is having problems with the sun. The sun is going out. And so there are lots of problems when the sun goes out. It's the story of Earth and all of the nations of the Earth coming together to come up with a solution. It's a very good story. Lots of humor, lots of science, as I think is just Andy Weir's way, and highly recommend it. Don't want to give any other things away because there's some good twists in there as well. So then The Martian. The Martian starts off on, you can probably guess, Mars, and there is a crew of astronauts that have been studying Mars. They have a whole base set up. There's they call it the hab, so their habitat, where they all have been living for X amount of time. And then there is an unexpected cataclysmic storm that they have to leave the planet on very short notice. As they are getting up and as they're leaving to go to to their ship to be able to go back to Earth, one of the people gets hit in the head by flying debris. Their vitals go flat as far as the computer is concerned, and they are left on their own because their crew thinks that they have died. So, as you can probably guess, he's not dead. He wakes up, he's all by himself, gets back in his habitat, and it's the story of him surviving, his story of him establishing communication with Earth, and then you can find out what happens after that. If you're wondering if these books are appropriate for, a tween or a teen to read, that's obviously in your own personal wheelhouse. I'm going to just deliver the information for each, and you can make the decision. For Project Hail Mary, very little profanity. There are a couple of F-bombs. There is, one scene where a couple of the main characters' co-workers are having a kind of candid discussion about their sexual relationship, but it's not really very graphic, I would say, but it's still there. With The Martian, the main thing is there's just a lot of swearing. There's a lot of profanity. So those are the basic, summaries of what happens in each of those books. Now I'm going to get into my personal take on each one of those books and why I think that these two books are worth comparing. The reason that I think that these two books are worth comparing is just kind of drastically different protagonists. I'm not a big fan of profanity. I won't say that it makes me not want to read a book. If there's a lot of sex in a book, I won't read the book. That's just not something that I'm about. The first book that I read was The Martian. There's a lot of profanity in it. There are lots of F-bombs, lots of just whatever. When I listened to Project Hail Mary, I was anticipating, okay, Andy Weir, from my limited knowledge of him, there's lots of profanity. So that's just going to be what it is. All right, whatever. I was very pleasantly surprised that that was not the case. It made me respect Andy Weir, not so much because it was like in line with my personal beliefs. It showed me his flexibility as a writer to be able to have these two totally different protagonists and be able to just run with a different flow or with a different, just have a different tone about it. That was very impressive to me. The main character maybe swears, any kind of swears, maybe twice in the whole book. It's mostly like gosh darns and doggone it's and that sort of thing. I just really like that. I thought that spoke to Andy Weir's ability to kind of step into a certain person's persona, even down to the level of how they speak. I also liked in Project Hail Mary, I really liked the addition of the alien, of Rocky. Rocky is a very lovable character. The way that Andy Weir, like, it seems to me like he said, okay, let's pretend that there's this planet. It's this size and it has this atmosphere. What kind of an alien would be on that planet? How would it evolve to adapt to that particular environment? And I mean, he went down just to the physiological level of this alien species to build it. And I think that is just so cool. One of the comparisons that I want to make between the two, something that I think that Andy Weir does really, really well is kind of showing his work, for lack of a better phrase. When you're in a math class and they say you need to show your work or you're not going to get any credit, Andy Weir must have really taken that to heart, because he does it in his books, where he will say, okay, well, if the speed of light is this, and blah, 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 all these other things, I don't know science. He goes through step by step how he figures out all of these different things, and he does that in both books. I had a much harder time following it in The Martian versus Project Hail Mary. I definitely found myself zoning out more in The Martian when he was going through all that kind of stuff. Whereas in Project Hail Mary, I was I was more engaged and followed it a little bit more. When it came to The Martian, it felt like a lot of the math and a lot of his showing his work was, to me, a little bit much. One of the things that I really liked about this book, that I really liked about Project Hail Mary, was the friendship that Rocky and Grayson developed. When everything really goes south and Rocky risks his life to rescue Grayson, and then vice versa, that whole part was very moving for me. It was very touching. It really hit home Grayson's character developing to realize that he and Rocky, while they had a lot of differences, obviously, in their physiology and where they came from and all that sort of thing, he was willing to risk his life for his friend. And he did so several times. I really identified with Grayson's character. I really appreciated his loyalty to his friend. Well, things were going pretty well, but I forgot to record any kind of a sign-off. I hope you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making it. I enjoyed talking about this book. I think it's pretty clear that I like Project Hail Mary better than The Martian. Both are great books. I recommend both of them. But if I had to choose between the two, I would definitely choose Project Hail Mary. I appreciate your coming and listening. Please like and subscribe. Please share with your friends, your neighbors, dog. That's lame. That's super lame. Just please share the channel, get the word out, and happy reading.